now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Brian Eamon, Brian Wilson with you here in Washington, D.C. Chris Moody of Yahoo News is up and at him at 6:07 his time because he's in Colorado right now.
Wow, we thank you for that.
Yeah, following Paul Ryan around. He was in Iowa yesterday. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Great to be here, Brian and Brian.
All right, so you were in Iowa yesterday when Paul Ryan was at the state fair, and there were some protesters around. What was that like?
Well, I don't want to overplay how many protesters were there. There were no more than 5, but they were extremely loud group of 5 people. This was Paul Ryan's very first day on his own out on the campaign trail. He has been released from the Romney nest, and it's his show right now. So he gets up there on the stage. There are thousands of people there at the fair watching him, and there was a vocal group right at the front. Looked like on one side of the stage, 2 older, probably 60s-era hippie kind of protesters shouting at him about war and the 1%. And then on the other stage, 2 younger girls tried to climb up onto the stage and rush him in order to unfurl a banner. The Secret Service obviously took them down very quickly, but they did get a foot up there, and I was standing right behind them, and one of the state troopers behind me just shouted, "It looks like that woman just punched a volunteer. Get him, go, go, go." And they took him down right in front of Ryan.
Wow.
And he was very cool about the whole thing. He stood there and he just said something to the extent of, "Whoa, whoa, hey, looks like they're not from Iowa," and then moved on with his speech. Now, the protesters kept screaming, the ones that weren't taken away, throughout his entire 12-minute talk, and Ryan didn't really miss a beat. He just kept his composure and continued on.
Wow. Now, I've heard that the protesters, that's par for the course at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Is that true? I mean, does this usually happen there?
There's a little bit of heckling back in history, that's true, but I'm not sure if anyone has tried to rush the vice presidential candidate. That'll get you in big trouble with the United States Secret Service.
All right, I've always said that Paul Ryan, to me, he's at his best when he's doing one-on-one interviews or he's answering questions or it's back and forth with another politician, not necessarily on the stump. How's he looked on the stump? Is he comfortable?
Well, you're exactly right. He's very good at having those in-depth policy discussions that Washingtonians understand. He speaks Washingtonese, and we all get it. But he has to be able to come out here and talk to 300 million Americans and express the message that he's been talking about in D.C. And I'd say he's very good at it. He's a charismatic, young politician that I think is going to work very hard at connecting with regular Americans. He stayed on point yesterday in his speech, and I think his message is going to resonate. He's going to have to really battle against Democratic counter-programming. They're working very hard to define him. And according to at least a few early polls, I think people are still making up their minds about Paul Ryan, but it's going to be a race to define, and that's something that Romney really needs to get on the stick about.
Couldn't agree with you more on that. Now, we have seen some indications that where Ryan and Romney show up, it seems like the crowds are fairly large. In some cases, 10 or 15,000 people are showing up, and in other cases where Obama's on the stump, we were hearing that the crowds have been rather modest. In one case, there's a documented case on the wires this morning. Joe Biden showed up, and like 600 people showed up. What some have said and suggested by looking at this, and maybe some of the early polls that are coming out, is that there is an enthusiasm gap between Democrats and Republicans. Now, when you're out there with Ryan, what kind of reaction is he getting from the crowd, and how large are the crowds?
Well, there's about a couple thousand there yesterday. They're curious. There's a lot of hype around this name. We have to remember that not everyone in America knows who the heck this Paul Ryan guy is. Mm-hmm. He's a Wisconsin member of Congress. He's not a senator. He was not a governor. He has had a little national exposure because of his budget. But again, within the Beltway, we know Paul Ryan. Of course, we've talked to him. We know him. But now here, they're really just starting to get to know him. And you know, you're not the only one to notice the crowd difference. I've received at least 2 emails from the Barack Obama campaign asking for money. They send out all these blasts to every email they can get their hands on, saying, "Look at these crowds for Romney. We're in real trouble." So I'd say they're noticing it too.
All right, the race to the fine. I think you're absolutely right about that. And you know, the Democrats are going to try to paint Paul Ryan as the guy who wants to end Medicare as we know it. And if that's the case, and the Romney camp had to know that coming out, why did they decide to put him in Wisconsin, or put him I guess he was in Virginia, he's in North Carolina, and then Wisconsin now, he's been to Iowa and Colorado today. Why not Florida right out of the get-go to define who Paul Ryan is?
Well, he'll be in Florida soon. He's not going to avoid Florida. Paul Ryan will make a stop in the Sunshine State, and that's going to be a very big test for him. All the Florida newspapers are very much aware about the senior citizen population and the worries among that community, and that's going to be a big part of the narrative. And once he leaves Florida, it'll be a real test to see if he can hold that state or not.
And do you get some sense that message is getting through, the Ryan Romney message that, hey, if you're 55 or older, you're not going to be impacted by this? Is that part of the message getting through to people?
It's really going to have to take some time to be able to tell. Obviously, fear-mongering is initially more effective than trying to explain a complex policy. So, again, just like it is to the battle to frame Brian, they're going to have this battle to get the message out about their policy proposals. And again, I think that's going to take time. We're not going to know for at least a couple of weeks, maybe a month, to see how it's resonating. We'll have to look at polls heading into October to see what people really think and who's won this messaging battle.
You're in Colorado, and everybody says Colorado is really up for grabs. So what's your sense of it?
This is the Western swing state, man. I mean, this is it. He's going to spend the morning here, and then he's going to stay here out west and go to Nevada. The polls are very close. It's hard to say who's really going to win this. Again, we're just going to have to find out closer to November.
All right. How is Paul Ryan going to be able to do his 1 hour of P90X every day if he's on the campaign trail? I mean, this is an important issue.
I asked him about it just yesterday, and he was walking through a busy crowd, and he said, I plan to stay in shape. So hopefully I can get a real chance to get the question. But yes, he does this P90X extreme workout every morning with Aaron Schock. And Aaron Schock, the congressman from Illinois, he's the one I'm really worried about. He's lost his workout buddy, so we'll have to check in with him too.
All right, sounds good. Chris Moody, it's always good to have you on. We appreciate it.